Welcome back for another episode of the Dope Stroke Podcast Show. Today we're going to be talking about Ryder Cup. We're going to be talking about interesting things related to pairings, related to golf swings, related to equipment as per usual. But before we get there, I want to introduce our beautiful hosts. And I'd say beautiful because obviously they have an ego the size of Jupiter. And we do have Chris Trott from Trotty Golf. And we have the humble Pluto-sized Chris Ryan from Chris Ryan Golf. Thanks for jumping on the show, boys. And I want to talk about last week. Chris was here, Trotty wasn't. And I'm talking specifically.
Didn't get the invite.
Well, that old cliche, isn't it? But I am really pleased to say that we finally had the launch party of the Full Swing showroom here in the UK. What did you think? How did you think it went, Bubs? What was your thoughts?
Mate, it was pretty special to come down, to be honest, and see it because, obviously I knew kind of what you were doing. I know what's been planned for a few months now. And I remember you speaking to me right back at the start when you were having these conversations with Full Swing. And it's amazing to see what you've done with the place. But just like aside from that, from the business side of it, and I said this to you on the evening, like I've known you a long, long time now, from probably 2001. So we're looking at nearly quarter of a century. And I was like genuinely proud and like made up for you, mate, because I cannot explain to the listeners just what you've done with that place, because you obviously connected with Full Swing many months ago. I know the conversations were had between yourself and Full Swing, and you decided you were going to kind of launch Full Swing EMEA, and that is no small task, to find a warehouse and just transform it into the space that you did, and then on top of that, create this launch party with nearly 100 people there, industry greats from all over the industry. It was just incredible, mate. And I was great. It was really, really good to be a part of it. Everyone had a great time. I spoke to a lot of people. I know that the guys from the US were super impressed with what you've done. And I just think we need a little moment to say, well done to Dazzler, because the little guy from South Africa done good.
Yeah, to be fair.
Whoa, you can
whoa. Here we go. He's got it. He's got 47%.
He stands there and says, "Oh, you two have got an ego. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Let's just massage yours for a little while."
That's about bloody time.
I tell you what, about time. It's about time you landed the plane on something decent on this business world you're in. We've been sitting here waiting for long enough, and all we've got is a podcast that gets about 2,000 views a week. Jesus, Mary. No, well done, Daryl. Well done. It looked like a cracking event. And for those that aren't quite following up, just explain exactly what you have been able to do, and then I will build on the magnitude of that whole achievement potentially, unless you do a good job of explaining what you've actually been able to do.
Well, essentially, we have set up the Full Swing simulator showroom here in the UK. So this is the UK or Europe EMEA base is basically what we're looking at. I've managed to merge everything sort of into the same space. So we've got the Rocket Yard sports marketing business here as well, and obviously Full Swing. So it's more than just a showroom. It's a location that you would describe as a pretty serious content hub. So whether you can, capture content from the simulators itself, we have the boardroom here, which is a great content spot on its own, podcast studio. Pretty soon we're going to have a green wall as well in order to do video shoots and photo shoots. So it literally is more like a studio content hub as well as a showroom. It's an invite only location. This is not something that's open to the public where you can go and, buy your drinks from the bar. It's not like that. It's a much deeper, environment for people to really enjoy the products and for us to really showcase what we're actually building here. But it's quite a significant moment for Full Swing, the brand, because, they've tried working with different distribution partners across the region for a long time, but if your distribution partners are selling your competitors, it's pretty difficult to break through. So the reason why this is such a poignant moment is that now it's Full Swing. This is where we're set up. This is where we're housed. This is where we do everything from start to finish. And then Rocket Yard, from a marketing perspective, is here to support the whole lot. So overall, with the various business interests I've got, it's Full Swing and Rocket Yard that are really moving the needle this side of the pond. Obviously, there's a few things happening on the other side of the pond right now as well, which we'll get into in the future, I'm sure. But right now, Full Swing, Rocket Yard, we're certainly going places right now. Pretty pumped about it, to be fair.
That's amazing. Few questions, obviously. Was this the hardest thing and look, this is just the beginning, but to get to the start line is tough sometimes. Was this the hardest thing that you have done so far, or was it just the same as everything else?
Well, the hardest thing I've ever done is being friends with you, to be fair. I mean, you've got to have a pretty thick skin just for that. But running close second, is this the hardest thing? Do you know what? I would say no, actually. I think setting up Rocket Yard was harder because you literally start from a standing start. It's hard in a way where you move out of employment and you go and do it yourself. There's a lot of people out there that you're never really sure if it's going to work or not, and other people think the same thing. So that was harder because you had to pivot and learn a lot of different things really early on. And then not long after, I suppose I had to deal with COVID. And as a startup-ish business at that time, that was hard. So those first 2-3 years, I would say, was brutal. Whereas this business, it has been brutal in terms of time consumption, but we're generating leads every day. And we have done for several months. So it's not quite the standing start that I had with starting Rocket Yard, but it's definitely been a time consumer for sure, but it's been worth it. When you look around and you see everything that's out on the walls and you see how the sims are set up and you see how the offices are laid out and you see the staff and how pumped they are to be in this new space, it's rewarding. So yeah, in that sense, it's different.
I know, Trotty, you were potentially going to come over, and obviously you didn't. But you've obviously spent a lot of time at the one in the US, and people who've listened to these podcasts for a long time will know that you filmed a lot of them from there. I know Daz has obviously been out to the US, and I've been there as well. It's got that feel. Like you walk in, it just feels like the US place. It's like a big open space. You got these impressive sims that catch your eye as soon as you walk in. The decor, the small details. It really captured the San Diego office, having and brought it to Wokingham, which isn't quite the same when you go outside. You haven't got the beach. But I mean, just for anyone kind of listening to this who's maybe not listened to the podcast before, if you're not sure what Full Swing is, it's the kit, which is essentially a launch monitor that I use, that Trotty uses. That's the kit that powers the TGL, which blew up last year, and I know we're going into it again this year. I think back end of December it's kicking off. And they've also got the simulator business, which are just, well, look, there's nothing else on the market like that sim, Dazzler. It is so impressive, isn't it?
Well, it's the number one sim in the US for a reason. So yeah, I would say it's very impressive. And the fact that we're now bringing this technology to the European marketplace at scale, I think it's an exciting time. The exciting time for us is not just connected to the world of golf, but it's the multi-sport experience too that I'm pretty revved up about. Obviously, Europe's a pretty big footballing location, or soccer for our US fans. So, yeah, I think this is the best time I could ever be involved in this business. So I'm pretty revved up for the next few years. Yeah. And you are right about the decor and every bit of detail. And actually one of the things which I feel like I have to mention is the passion and love I showed to refurb a foosball table to be fully full swing branded. And it looks mega. Honestly, I'm so happy with the foosball table.
Is that not all a new
the things,
one?
The foosball table is great. No, it's not a new one.
Oh, I just assumed they'd sorted that out because it's got a full swing branding on it.
No, mate, I did it. I took it all apart. Lloyd helped me. I took it apart, scraped off all of the crap that was all over it. And I'm sure there's plenty of spilled beer on it and everything. Cleaned it all down, sanded it down, sprayed it, then put the Full Swing stickers on it, redid the pitch so it was black and white with the Full Swing logos on it. Mate, it's like a work of art, that is. I mean, something that you'd see out of a Michelangelo Sistine Chapel.
Oh, there's your next business venture then. When this one gets off the ground, you got more time. Foosball table renovation.
Foosball tables.
Might need one in the States, Daryl, so you can get together and make me one out here then when you come out.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Just buy a second-hand one and I'll bring the tools.
So, I've still got your toolbox from when we were young. I still have the same toolbox. Yeah, it's still not been opened.
Yeah, I'm not surprised now. I've seen your skills.
Yeah, don't do it. So was the branding and the guidelines, because I wanted to ask that, was that given to you by Full Swing USA, or were you able to run free with that?
Yeah, we did want to see the brand guidelines based in the States, but we did have a lot of guidance from Jason, who's the COO of Full Swing in the States. I said, look, we really want to take it up a level in terms of the creativity. And he said, go for your life, do whatever you think would be right for the market. So we had a lot of freedom. And actually, one of the things that's gone down surprisingly well is that we had all these custom stickers made. all
Yeah,
like full
that.
swing wording. I mean, they were I couldn't believe how popular they were, but we had 75 different styles of stickers. And they went down a hit. And Jason was saying, "Hey, dude, can I take some stickers back to the States with me?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, go for your life." So we're going to get a lot more of that stuff done and do some cool, interesting things.
Who
But
designed all the
boat.
stickers? Because I did see that, just the usual Rocket Yard designer.
Yeah, so no. So Sinead and Lauren obviously in the background of this call, between them, they managed to get quite a lot of those styles over the line. And then I sat down with them to go through which ones I liked, which ones I wasn't so keen on. And then the ones that we liked, we just said, right, let's get them all printed out. And we did. And I think Lauren's creativity and Sinead's eye on these things as well, that's the Rocket Yard side of the business, trying to power up the full swing side of the business. So in theory, both seem to be connecting quite nicely on that front, which is good. And we really want to push out that creative sort of spirit, which is why this location needs to be a content hub and not just any showroom.
Interesting. So good to know then, Bubsy, as we're both part of this Rocket Yard family, we'll be in for a set of stickers for each brand, won't we, lad?
Oh mate, I swiped a load when I was there, so I've already got one on my full swing kit, and I've got a few more.
I don't want full swing ones. I want some trotty golf ones powered by Rocket Yard. Let's go, Daz. Let's get the girls on.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about that, so we're going to get dope stroke ones. We're going to get everything dialed in. Yeah, we're going to get a whole bunch.
This is my tripod that I film with. It's got full swing on it.
There you go.
There you go.
On point. On point.
It's amazing how a bunch of stickers get a bunch of middle-aged men fired up, isn't it?
I know, yeah, but it kind of like reminds you of your youth, doesn't it? You get those like Santa Cruz skateboards out and everything, and you know, even when you go snowboarding and you buy something, there's always a pack of stickers in there. I think that's just our generation. Maybe we're obviously getting old and fascinated by stickers instead of, mobile phone covers.
So, what's the plan for the next 6-8 months? What does success look like from here on?
Well, clearly the content side needs to be heavy. So we'll do a lot of content. We want to work with a lot of people who want to film from here as well, whether that's using the podcast studio, whether that's doing filming in the Sims, whatever they want to use the space for. Starting to now develop a couple of the other commercial partners that we work with now. So at the minute, and I'm very excited to say so, we're pleased to be partnering up with Adidas and TaylorMade. Obviously, both brands I know well, so they've been really supportive of everything that we're building out. And then realistically, it's developing the sales pipeline and working to see if we can solve some problems for some customers. And right now, we've got a pretty significant pipeline, and that's only going to grow stronger over the next 3 to 6 months for sure. So we're in a good place.
It's good. It's fantastic. For those that can hear the background noise as I'm sat in my kitchen right now that's falling apart, just remember there is a podcast studio in the lines here for Trotty. We might have to get to episode 766, but there's one in the lines, so everyone knows that.
Yeah, you'll have a nice podcast studio. Just hope that the ceiling doesn't fall down in that one either.
Pretty crazy where I'm sat right now, you wouldn't believe. Anyway, so we shall move on with this week. The bottom line is, as we draw a little line under the first step, I think that we certainly recognise, and hopefully others do around, that that's an awesome achievement, mate. So congratulations, well done. And you're already looking a little lighter on your feet after getting the stress and strain of that off your shoulders.
Yeah, you'll be pleased to know I've actually got some time back now, Trotty, so I can show you some love. Yeah, because I know what you're like. You need a little, you need a little massage every now and then, don't you? That ego doesn't look after itself, does a kid?
You take your hands off the wheel, and my house falls apart. See
what? Well, we'll put all that to right. Don't you worry about it.
I've become really good mates with the plumber. He's straight in today to fix the water heater. Big Shawnee coming in today, the boy. Only called him yesterday.
Talking of big news and maybe a teaser. When can you talk on your news, Trotty?
I mean, that's I think it's a little while out. We're in full on plans and working.
We'll just keep teasing it then. We'll keep teasing it. But I would like to think that as we get into December, probably that'll be a fantastic time to start. But yeah, there's some amazing stuff that I'm working on. That once we get there, we'll get some stickers made. It'll be fantastic. Yeah, I know a guy.
In addition to that, we should kind of recognize that because this needs to be a bit of a, under wraps until then. So we're basically under embargo until December-ish time. I think we should have a code name for this, and I reckon we should call it the fishing trip.
Fishing trip. Yeah, we can call it a fishing trip.
Yeah.
For any of our US viewers, that's come from a UK sitcom comedy show where no one talks about the fishing trip. And I think we can call it the fishing trip for sure.
Here we go. Well, I look forward to learning more about the fishing trip in due course.
It's got to have a sticker, the fishing trip.
Yeah, it really does. It does. It does. We'll work on that. Lauren's on this call now, so she'll be able to noodle that down and start putting some designs together already, ready for the launch of the fishing trip.
But I think the bottom line is, look, for anyone, like I say, to put a line under this first section, for anyone listening in here, these things don't happen overnight. Like I had a comment that was on my YouTube this week. I've been busting my balls off to start playing better golf since I played with Chrissy Ryan. He was over the other day, and I played so bad. I must have hit a million balls since he left, and it's like I'm flipping 16 again, and it's nothing. And someone types in there, "Oh, swing looks effortless." It ain't effortless. My hands are in pieces, and I think that as you bring it into like what we're working on, I know that what Chris has created, it's not effortless. I mean, someone also commented something about the silver fox that you work with. It's like, well, he used to be jet black until he started doing this stuff. But I mean, then obviously your stuff, mate, it's not effortless. So I think anyone in this listening, you just got to keep plowing towards whatever it is you set yourself to do. Because at some point, one day someone texts you and says like, well, I didn't get an invite. What do you mean? That's unbelievable. What's Daryl got going? That's unbelievable. Where did that come from? And you know, you start getting all these text messages, and I added to it. I didn't get a goddamn invite either. But it's like when people have got them, when you're running launch parties and people aren't at them, that's a big deal. And I know I did. But it's good. It's very good. So golf clap for everybody here. Pat on the back. Loza, get back to work. Someone get Lloyd and Big Pete. Get the team even bigger. Let's go. Team
even bigger. Yeah, we've got a new starter coming in next month, and we probably will have another one the month after, and so on and so forth. But yeah, a little nod to the hat there. Not on the hat there. It's definitely been a roller coaster to get this far, no question, and it ain't for everybody. I can tell you that much. Having done this more than once, you know, getting into running your own gig, it's just not for everybody. You have to have a pain threshold that's higher than anything you've ever seen, and people will never be able to relate to that until they do it themselves.
I think as we get through this, I think there will be an episode that is, if we get through it, how to keep a marriage going through starting a new business. There's a book there. Because my missus is running traffic here with sign language in the broken down kitchen. And I know that your missus has sent me a couple of text messages saying how this has been tough. There's a book there, mate. There's a book.
There is. She said to me the other day, this is Vicky, so we just sat on the sofa and I'm doing some stuff on the laptop, and she says, "Can you do me a favor?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's that?" She says, "Can you not start any more businesses?" I'm like, I'm not sure if I can make that promise, to be honest, kid.
But you know what? It's like you were saying there, Trotty, it's not effortless. It is not effortless. There is a lot of effort, but if the effort is enjoyable, it's different. And we are going to move on in a minute. But there's been multiple times over the past few years when I've been on a call with Daryl, and there's a situation that's arisen, and he's telling me how he's going to negotiate this situation, and I'm on the one end of the call, and I'll say to him, "That is my worst nightmare," and he'll go, "Oh, I love this shit. I love this shit." He loves the stuff that I hate, and it's like I could not do what he does, but I'm guessing equally he couldn't do what I do, and I guess it's just finding your thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go in depth on the fishing trip yet, but there are a crew of people that have come together that are all very different skills to help to this point. And I actually used this the other day, Daryl, and I'm going to continue to use it because a friend of mine's going into something, and you talked about the analogy of jumping out of an aeroplane, needing to build a plane before you hit the ground, and all the pieces are in the air with you flying, and you might not have all the pieces, but this thing's going to need to take off before you hit the ground. And that sort of like sat pretty good with me in amongst the chaos, because you do take on these things. They're way bigger than what they're what you've been dreaming of doing, but they're bigger than what you think you can do. But you know that with the right people and the right support, you can do it because you've been working towards it. It's a bit like when I went to Q school years ago with Daryl on the bag, and I was at the second stage and I shot 74 in round one. This week lived with me for 10 years afterwards. The truth is I was playing good enough golf to get to the finals of the European Q School. And I went out on day one and shot 74 and it was the easiest 74 in the history of golf. And the next day I went out, shot 67 to get in the mixer. And I remember Daryl and I were talking on the range. He read the Da Vinci Code, sat against my tour bag with his head on the thing. He read almost the whole book as I did, for about 5 hours. Didn't complain once, to be fair, and was just sat there. And we were talking. And I think that anyone looking to do anything with Rocket Yard, if you're fortunate enough to work with them, and you and I obviously have direct access to Daryl, and again, patting him on the back here for that business. But it's things that you're uncomfortable in. His ability is to put them in a place where you can digest them. And I'm sure that there's elements of yours and my personality, Bubsy, that are similar, because we are front of camera, and that has its own challenges that, to me, and I'm sure to you, they're quite easy now because you've found the flow. But I think with Daryl, when you've got opportunities ahead of you and you can't see the wood for the trees, and it happened to me at that Q School thing, it happened to me with this business that I'm starting on the fishing trip, he just is able to put a steady hand on it and piece it together in a place where you're like, listen, you've got it covered. It's going to be okay. Take it as it comes. And you'll make this a success, because ultimately this is what you've been working towards. And if it's not what you've been working towards, then why did you ever want it? And I think that was poignant for me. And I think with the ability I had as a golfer, I think that's why I got further than a lot of others around me with much higher ability than what I had. Because the truth is, I wasn't that good.
On Thursday at this launch event, and it might be on Friday as well, Daryl did refer to you multiple times as the flapper.
Yeah, I did. I said, it's the flapper been on the phone yet today? No.
You need someone like that, lads. Right.
Oh, mate.
Let's move on to this Ryder Cup stuff. Yes. And we did say, anyone listening to this, that Ryder Cup is going to dominate the Dope Stroke podcast between here and the conclusion, and probably the week after. I got a little call up from our friends at Adidas about 72 hours ago. Trotty's going the Ryder Cup, by the way.
Oh, what?
Yeah, buddy.
When are you going?
Out on Tuesday, tomorrow. Go out tomorrow, get back Saturday. So I'll watch the finals in my workshop here with all the walls off and all the plumbing out. But the TV still works.
Okay, so actually, I want to go over that point then. So you'll be there tomorrow, and you've been to Bethpage before, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So and I've been there a couple of times previous too. So with your experience of what you've seen Bethpage be for some of the other major championships you've been to, what are you expecting to be different at the Ryder Cup in terms of course setup that wouldn't normally be in place if it wasn't a major?
I mean, first things first, this ticket is going to be a viewer's ticket, I assume, with some corporate hospitality. So that's going to make it a challenge for viewing the golf course.
Yeah, we didn't think you were playing, mate. We didn't think you were playing.
Nah, I know. But obviously, years gone by, mate, I've gone round and fanning about the golf club. So you kind of access all areas. So I might have to lean on a few people for that. But no, I think course setup, I think it's going to be wider than what it would be for a major, because you've got the US boys and they don't hit it as straight. I think the greens
double the size. I think there's double the size of the fairway. Yeah, I think double the total size of fairways. So whether that's wider on some and narrower on others, but yeah, bigger fairways.
Yeah, I mean, that's a no-brainer for them. And then the greens, I would imagine, will be so quick, because the old Euros have just had Wentworth and France. Greens aren't quick there. They'll make them lightning and they'll make them firm. And I imagine there'll be a decent amount of rough around the greens, to be honest. And that's about the course setups I think they'll play it as far back as they can in certain places. And watching I know it's going to be nice to take in the atmosphere. I think it's going to be difficult. I think it's going to be like 8-9 people deep. So the golf course actually meanders out and then comes back. So I might just plow on out to like flipping hole 8 and just be done with it and just try and watch some golf shots.
I wonder if I don't know, right? So it'll be quite interesting to see what you would come back and say. I'm actually quite keen to see how close the fans are going to be to the players walking the fairways. And my reasoning or my thought process behind that is that they might not need to be that close, because the US fans we know are going to be they're going to be rowdy. They're going to be up for it. It's New York, so they're definitely going to be game on. But to drown out any European support, it might actually be better for the fans not to be that close to the fairways, is what I was thinking. I just wonder if that's going to be the case, especially with wider fairways on the go.
I think the stuff that I saw when I was doing a bit of research for a previous podcast, it wouldn't surprise me, Chossie, if this course looks almost unrecognizable from when you've been before, because I read that the fairways are going to be much bigger. They have removed loads of trees from the golf course. And I think there was some changes to the bunker, some quite significant changes. So it wouldn't surprise me if this looks very, very different to anything that we've seen before.
Yeah, potentially. I think that the merchandise will be off the charts. I know that there's a lot of brands that are based out in New York as well, and they'll take advantage of the city, and then they'll move into like that side of it. It's going to be logistically difficult to get to. I mean, Oakmont, I went there for a hot minute this year, and that was the thing that I left. Having been to countless US Opens, when I left this year, I was like, God almighty, I'd be fine not coming to this next season, because it's just too... The freaking car parks went up to like letter H in the alphabet. And then you've got to get another bus in. And I was just like, what are we doing? Everyone's got to see your credential. And then, went up to the President's Cup last year. That was good, but the golf course was flat. So you couldn't see anything. Whereas at least with Bethpage Black, there's quite a bit of undulation. So you'll be able to see a lot more. I think that they need to think about that when they do these tournaments that are just team events, because there's only ever 4 games on the golf course. You got the same amount of people watching 4 games. France was great for that because you could see down into it. Glen Eagles is good for that. Can't really think where Whistling Straits is good for that. This one will be good for that. So you will be able to see a bit, but it will be from a ways away.
Interesting. So I'm thinking about the equipment side here now, Trotty, and thinking about some of the things we've already just touched on there: wider fairways, US players hit the ball longer, not as straight potentially. Like, what do you see guys making switches this week, and what kind of switches would they make? And I guess a key question I've got is really about the ball. Obviously the ball is such a unique thing for golfers at that level. When they do the pairings, how do you think that might have an impact on who plays with who?
Well, it's everything, isn't it? And I just pulled up the list here from the Tour Championship, and you wonder why Sepp Straka and Shane are being talked about a lot. Same golf ball, Z-Star XV Arrow. It's the same ball that those two play. And then Rory has used the 5X in the past, and Fleetwood's on the 5X. So that could be a foursomes combination. Rosie in the Pro V1X 2025. If we look at McIntyre Pro V1X 2025, and the ball at the Tour Championship has got an underline saying that it was a fresh ball for him that week. So that tells me that Rose and McIntyre are playing together. Harry Hall's in a Bridgestone. I know he got overlooked on this. Could be a reason he's got overlooked, because no one plays a Bridgestone. Chris Gotterup got overlooked. Bridgestone golf ball. As you start to look down this list, you realize this is so important when it comes to picking a Ryder Cup team and who plays with who. The golf ball's one piece of equipment used by absolutely everybody, and it's used on every single shot. So even just looking at that small sort of amount there, that test amount, to see that McIntyre's plays a different model at that FedEx Cup Championship says a lot to me. And then, on the US side, you've got JJ Spawn and a Z-Star Diamond, I assume that is a 2022 golf ball. It's going to be a difficult pairing. I mean, who are they going to put him with? Because I can't think of anyone who uses that. Oh, guess what? Keegan Bradley did. Oh, that's right. They didn't pick him. But at the end of the day, it comes into play. And Cantley's on a 2019 Pro V1X. Victor's in a 21. Henley's in a 21. Brian Harman's in a 2017 Pro V1 golf ball. Didn't get picked. Is that a reason? Morikawa on a 2019 TP5. So, it's tricky.
What's quite interesting about some of the early part of what you're saying there, and I'm currently looking at the last Ryder Cup, and obviously it's kind of a good baseline because it's near enough 11 of the 12 players on the European side are the same. But Rahm and Hatton, they were paired together in the last Ryder Cup. Rose McIntyre, another one. McIlroy Fleetwood, Lowry Straka, they've already been paired together. So it almost starts to imply that the way that the type of requirement that they have from that golf ball is very indicative of what we could expect to see it this week at the Ryder Cup, based on what you just said alone about the ball.
Yeah, 100%.
If you've got I mean, I think I said this on a previous podcast, but I do think that's where the Europeans have an advantage because we've got ready-made pairings. And I think in the last Ryder Cup, Rory was using the TP5X. He's now using the TP5. And you mentioned there that Fleetwood was using the TP5X. If there was, let's say they're going to be paired together again, and one of those has got to switch golf ball, do you think, well, I'll ask you this, both of you, do you know when Luke Donald potentially picks these pairings? Because I know they're great players, but is Monday of this week enough time to tell a Tommy Fleetwood, you've got to play with a TP5 rather than TP5X? Or is that enough time to tell Rory? Or do they get a heads up months in advance and they start to take in a practice round, they start to chip and pitch with it? So I'd love you to speak on that, Trotty, if you know that. And also, just use Rory as an example. We don't know whether this is going to turn out to be the case. Let's say he has to use the TP5X in a match of foursomes and he uses the TP5. Just talk us through what differences he would see with driver, irons, around the greens and putting.
Yeah. I think answer that one first. It's a softer golf ball around the greens. It spins more. It spins more off the irons and it'll spin more off driver and it won't be as quick as the TP5X. So the 5 is more spinny. Then and flies a little higher because of the spin, descent angle's a little steeper. But all that is good for someone like Rory with the speed he's got. He doesn't need any more yardage. You then flip it to someone like Tommy Fleetwood. X is going to go a bit further. He's going to have to spin it more. It feels a bit harder. So it can really impact when you putt. In terms of how far out do these boys get the golf balls to test, I know at TaylorMade, we'd be sending guys balls. Like, for example, Rosie locked his spot in early this year. Didn't happen this year because he's not in the ball. But we would have sent him balls to practice with at home quite a ways in advance of the tournament because they like to practice with them at the course they play at so they can figure that out before they take it to a championship course. But going back to the days when we were all at the Belfry and we got a chance to be in the team rooms, I know that they were still talking about golf balls on the first night they got there. They knew then who they were going to play with. And these tour boys here, they know who they're playing with now already. 100%. Yeah. And I think it's written in the tea leaves as you start to dive through it on even some simple Google searches if you can figure out the pop-up blocker. But basically, at the end of the day, you can see that Sepp is playing with Rory, with Shane. That's going to happen, but it's going to be because of ball. You then come to Victor. He's in a 21. Ludwig's in a 23. How different are those golf balls? They're both Pro V1s. That answer I don't know. Be a different individual feel, but might not. It might be close enough for them to play it.
So just as a summary, playing a different golf ball, is that more impactful in a negative way, closer to the green or longer shots?
They say that you should practice with your golf balls from 150 yards and in to dial it in. So on your long shots, you can easily tweak the lofts on the driver, the face angle, the loft sleeve, fairway woods can be bent, and the long irons can be adjusted to counter for the spin. But from 150 yards and in, that's where you need to work on it. So for these boys, it'll be round the greens and putting.
Mm-hmm. And do you think, taking that one step further and thinking about those short game shots, do you think that you'll see changes in short game clubs that the guys might play, or will they just go straight for new wedges, fresh grooves, that kind of thing?
I think this close to this tournament, if they're putting in a new wedge, it'll be in now already. And that will be better. And that's player dependent. I mean, Rory puts in sort of 3 or 4 new sets of wedges a year. Jason Day doesn't really change. Rahm changes 2-3 times a year. It's very player dependent. And I think it's going to be prime conditions in New York. So there's not going to be anyone sticking in super low bounce unless they play low bounce for the whole season. It's not like you come in where there's Bermuda and that goes dormant this time of year. I mean, New York, I'm pretty certain it's not going to be, is it? It's going to be bent, I would have thought. So the grass types and stuff aren't going to be stuff that goes dormant. It's going to be amazing condition. So I would imagine no one will change their actual bounce, but they will, maybe if they're putting freshies in, those things are in already. But fresh grooves and a different ball, that could be tricky.
Because I imagine the greens will be slick. They're going to be as fast as they can possibly make them.
Yeah, they'll be 13 on the stimp for sure. And there's no reason they shouldn't be in New York in flipping September.
Which you'd think would suit the Americans, right? Because they love a flop shot. That's the type of golf that they'll play. They'll do everything to almost force the Europeans to have to do the same, which might not necessarily be the strength of some of the players.
What do we know? What's around the greens? Are there kind of tight cut runoff areas, or are they kind of thick rough? Because we saw the US Open this year, how like every single shot within 20 yards of the green was just the same. It was just really thick grass. There was very, very little kind of skill or control of the golf ball, and it kind of negated the players who had great short games. I'm not sure what the setup is this year, but surely, if, let's say the US team on paper are less proficient around the greens, you're going to grow that rough up and make it more of a level playing field. Whereas if you've got the players in your team who are more adapt to pitching off good conditions, you're going to give them some runoff areas, aren't you? And that's one thing that I've said this before, but I don't think the Ryder Cup course should be set up by the home team. I think it should be done by an independent committee.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's tricky to give you an exact look without us being there, but you can do a quick Google search, and it says here, much like what the Belfry was, while it remains dense, the rough has been maintained at a shorter length for the Ryder Cup season compared to previous major championships, which would totally make sense because they don't want to have this thing too deep and penal, and they want to get, a guy hits it in the junk, they want him to be able to get it up on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Greens are expected to be manageable for the professional players, so maybe not as quick as what we think. And then they're saying here that temporary tees have been installed for the match play format, so you may see some different form of where the tees are at.
And the Europeans have been out. They've been out there a little while now, haven't they? I'm sure they've already been there over a week.
2 weeks.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Flew out after. A lot of them went after Wentworth, didn't they?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how, because I don't think they often do that, right? They normally get there on the Monday or the Sunday before. So it'll be quite interesting to see if that has a bit of a difference in this particular Ryder Cup on US soil.
Yeah. The course will be a par 70, 7,352 yards.
There you go.
How long? 7?
Straightforward.
Mate, I'm going off of what it'll give me. 7,352. That's
not
long.
Is it?
For a par 70.
For a par 70, yeah, but it's not long as in, you can get up near 7.5, 7.6, can't you, in majors?
Yeah, but that's par 72. Par 70 that's long.
Yeah.
Interesting. So thinking a little bit about, from your perspective, Bubs, the playing styles of the players, how they overlap each other a little bit, and obviously dovetail in this case in this type of format. Are there any pairings that seem obvious to you outside of what Trotty has said related to the golf ball? But just thinking about the US side, the European side, what are you looking at golf sort of performance-wise, and how different pairings will match each other?
Yeah, look, I think it's a there's a lot goes into it, put it that way. It's not just a case of they get on off the course or we'll put them together. There's so much that goes into it. Luke will be looking at, how well do they get on with each other, because potentially you're definitely going to play better with someone that you get on with. I mean, going back in the day, there was a lot made of when, I can't remember who was captain now, put Phil and Tiger together. And they just didn't work, and I think it was because, number one, number two. Yeah, it was a case of number one, number two in the world. Surely they're going to go and win, and it just didn't work that way. So you're going to be looking at pairings who are comfortable with each other in terms of their company, probably in terms of people who socialise maybe with each other. But then there's also the golf side of things as well. So we are looking at foursomes probably where it's a little bit more difficult to put people together. But let's say you've got, Victor Hovland now is incredible around the greens, but he did go through a spell of not being the best chipper. So if he was still in that state and he wasn't particularly confident around the greens, you're probably not going to put him in a foursomes pairing with someone who is not a great iron player. Because, statistically, you'd say that player is not going to maybe hit the green as often as they should, and it's leaving Victor more chips and pitches. So you're going to be looking at it from a statistical point of view. And then also you've got to consider, in foursomes specifically, who tees off. And that isn't just a case of, I feel more comfortable off the first, so I'll go first. You've got to look at it and say, well, who's going to hit on the par threes? Who's potentially the longest hitter who's going to hit on the par fives? And this is why it's such a big job just to pick one pairing. let alone to pick 4 in a session, and obviously more over the whole week. And I think what Luke will have done 2 years ago, he's learnt a lot, and whether he keeps the same pairings or not will tell us a lot about what he thought he did last year. I think if he feels like he did a really good job last year and he got it right, and we'll see a lot of the same pairings. But there's just a hell of a lot that goes into it. There's statistics, there's things like how far they hit the golf ball. We've touched on the actual golf ball itself. We've got the personalities. It's a really complicated process that he's going to have gone through with his support staff. He did it pretty well last year, so I would expect to see similar sort of pairings this year.
Yeah, I think maybe that's also a key factor as to why they've gone out early as well, so they can capture the final pieces of data, just try different things around the golf course and just see what happens. But also just from a team building type opportunity to get enough time as a group together. Yeah, it's the same as football, right? Club football typically, or soccer to our US fans, it's a much better standard really than international football, even though those countries have the best players of their nation. It's club football dominates, but they also spend the most amount of time with each other. So the understanding of how one another's games work, all of that all those sort of subtle nuances you get because you spend a lot of time with people. And that's across all walks of life, right? I look in the office here now and I work with a bunch of people and we kind of know how everyone sort of operates, and it's the same across the board. So I definitely think that that's a fact. And I wonder how, and if there's a way of measuring that they do for that kind of thing.
Sure. I mean, four ball, you'd think is a little easier in terms of the pairing, because you're playing your own golf ball, and effectively, if you wanted to, you could just focus on that. But you have got things to consider, like if I'm playing in a 4-ball and it's my first Ryder Cup, and I might go through a spell of 3-4 holes, I'm not playing great and I make a few bogeys, I've got to be partnered with someone who is able to say the right things to me and act in a way
that
which is
was
going
Rose
to
and
perform me.
McIntyre at the last
Exactly. And that's exactly why, it's easy to look at 4-balls and say, well, you're playing your own ball, so it doesn't really matter. And I do think that foursomes is a more difficult partnership to form, but in 4-ball there is stuff in there that you have to consider. I mean, Rose and I think from memory Bob didn't play great, but he managed to get a couple of points on the board, I think, and part of that was obviously playing with Rosie, and Rosie kind of putting him along and saying the right things, and just even like having someone there in the fairway with you who's been there and done that, who you can lean on for a little bit of advice. It's invaluable. Luckily this year we've only got one rookie, but it's a lot of these players, it will be the first time playing an away Ryder Cup, and that's got its own challenges.
So tell me this then as well, Bubs, just from your view, like just think over the last sort of 2 or 3 Ryder Cups, has there been just thinking about any sort of iconic type of shot or a type of shot really that you observed that you think that is worth walking through, that maybe the fan base to this show might be able to learn from?
Loads.
I'll go for that one. I've got a video coming out.
Here we go.
I've got a video coming out on Tuesday on YouTube that recreates 3 of the most iconic best 10 shots. And I did them in more recent times. But I mean, if you go back in time, you've got to talk about Christy O'Connor's 2-iron, Sevy's fairway wood out the trap, Sevy driving 10, Paul Azinger holding out the belfry. But, you can't do that for a YouTube video where everyone's 12 and between the age of 12 and 30. You've got to freaking create something that people got. So the shots that I did to recreate, and I won't do the spoiler on the YouTube video, Jamie Donaldson, 147 yards, pitching wedge at Glen Eagles. He hit his to this. We won't tell you how close I hit mine. Then you do Tommy Fleetwood, Marco Simone driving the last green after Ricky Fowler banged one in the drink. That was pretty impressive, by the way.
That was a mini driver, wasn't it? Was it a mini driver or driver?
He hit driver, choked down on a QI10, I think. And then the one that I think Bubsy's going to have to break down for us is Jordan Spieth out of the deep clag on the par 3 at Whistling Straits when he nearly ran into the Lake Michigan there. Do you remember that shot?
I do remember that. I've got a better one, though.
Go on, then.
Well, I want to know, first of all, did you manage to execute all those one take?
You were given the video had 3 goes at each shot, all right? And then you'd get a shot quality on the shot. So I'll be honest, I hit 3 pretty good wedges at 7 in the morning for the Donaldson one. And then we put the camera on for B-roll. and it was insane. So I was like, we got to use that. I don't care. The first one's having 4 goes. Don't care.
Okay.
Second shot was the Spiethy one. And for me, I guess I must be in the crap a lot because that shot wasn't overly difficult. And I wouldn't have played it the way we set it up, the way he was playing it. But I got into a rhythm of just hitting that. So I ended up hitting loads of them, but they were all fairly okay for what the shot was. And then the third one was to drive it on the green. And I had one went left out of bounds, which was tricky. The other one went on the green. And then I nailed one into the water. Then I hit another one that went right to the water, much like the game we had. It was that hole 18. Yeah. Then I hit it on the green 2 times on the spin. So I actually had 5 goes at that. So, but yeah, I mean, look, I'm no YouTube sensation. You know what I mean? You got to give me a few goes here.
Absolutely. All right. So the one I'm gonna break down. And look, there's been some great shots. It always amazes me when you watch the Ryder Cup. There's always like a shot that's hold or something. I mean, there's Tiger holding one at Celtic Manor. It just amazes me that, you know, under the most amount of pressure and literally the whole world is watching, they're able to produce these incredible shots. So, yeah, look, the one I'm going to break down 2 years ago, Sunday singles, 17th hole, Rory's 2 up, I believe, playing Sam Burns. I mean, awful shot, misses the green, left, hits the bank, goes 25 yards away, and he's probably 3 to 4 feet lower than the green. And then look, the clip's been played all over YouTube and socials, but he takes a wedge. I think it's like a 60, and he hits this thing that comes out 4 or 5 feet high, and just takes a couple of massive skips, and then just pulls up within 4 or 5 inches. And I think if you look at that shot, I mean, like, incredible pressure, right? He's 17th hole singles, and he ended up winning the match 3-1 because I think Sam Burns conceded the hole. But I think if you were to take the average golfer and get them to have an up close and personal view of that shot, there's probably 3 things that would really surprise them. Number one, how the hell is he able to spin it that much from that close? I think they'd be really surprised at how low that thing launched. And I think they'd be really surprised at how much loft he had on the golf club to hit that low spinner. Like, I think if you were to show someone the ball flight, this kind of low shot, they'd go, yeah, I can do that. You just take a wedge and you stick it back in your stance and you lean the handle forward. And that would give you a low shot. But Rory would have played that with the face open. Now, Trotty can jump in and let us know what wedges he plays. But I think the most lofty plays is a 60. And he had this face open. Like, he's laid the face open on a 60. So he's got that thing at probably close to 75 degrees of loft. And I'm guessing that ball launched lower than half of that. I reckon it would have launched around about 30 degrees. So I just want to kind of dive into kind of the things that he would have done and the contributing factors to get a 70-odd degree club to launch at 30 degrees and spin that much next to the flag. And if you think about, there's 2 numbers, and we'll kind of unpick this. There's 2 things you have to be aware of an impact. Number one is how much loft has the club got that impact. So let's just use easy numbers. Let's say this club had 60 degrees of loft at impact.
Dynamic loft,
yeah. So that's not what's written on the club. That's just what that club had as it struck the golf ball. So let's say it was 60. Then we need to know, or we need to estimate what his attack angle was. So is the club going down or up? Let's say it's going down by 10. Now, I'm not suggesting it was, but just use those easy numbers. You've got 6 degrees of loft pointed up. Think of that as like an arrow. And then you've got 10 degrees, which is the attack angle pointing down. The golf ball is basically going to launch somewhere between those 2. Now, what drags the launch angle down closer to the attack angle is friction. The more friction Rory can create, the more he can lower and drop that launch angle. So we know that to have the face that open and to have this thing launching as low as he did, there was a huge amount of friction. So what creates friction? Well, number one, the ball. He's got a premium ball. I think he was using the TP5X at that point, but that's got a super soft cover. The softer the cover, the longer the ball effectively stays on the golf club, with more friction we can create. Trotty's already alluded to the fact that he changes his wedges 3 to 4 times a year. So his wedges aren't old. He's got pretty fresh grooves, new wedge. That's going to create more friction. Then we have to ask ourselves, was there anything between the club and the ball? Any grass, any soil? No, it was a really tight fairway lie. So there's nothing between the club and the ball. That increases friction. Then we say, well, okay, was there any moisture on the ball? Was there any moisture on the face? Was there any water anywhere around? No, it was super dry. That increases friction. So as he walks up to that golf ball, he knows subconsciously, he's kind of assessing the situation. He knows he's able to create huge amounts of friction. Now, he knows he's then able to launch it significantly lower than the loft on the club. Therefore, he opens the face. He probably hits down on it by 10 degrees. And if you look at the down the line video, his vertical swing plane is pretty steep, right? That club, when it reaches, when the club head is kind of level with his hands, the club head is way outside his hands. So by that, I mean, if you're looking at the down the line view, the club head is to the right of his hand. So he's got a pretty vertical swing plane, which gives him a lot more angle of attack downwards. And the more he can hit down with friction, the more he can drag that launch angle down. And therefore, this thing comes in super low, hot, and spins. And there's things there that he couldn't control. Like if you give him a bit of rough, bit of moisture, old golf clubs, he's not hitting that shot. Now, I'd back him to get up and down with whatever scenario. But everything was geared around being able to hit that shot. And then obviously, he's got to strike it. He's got to strike it. And that's where him as a skilled, talented golfer with thousands and thousands of millions of people watching, he's able to produce it. And it's a brave shot because if it doesn't spin, it's off the back of the green. If he doesn't get the right trajectory, it's not close. But I mean, that was super impressive.
So I spoke to him about it. Great breakdown, by the way. I spoke to him about that shot. He said Fitz was already in for par. So he said it wasn't as hard as what people thought. He also said it was slightly upslope for him. So going to what you've said, that then increases your down attack angle because the slope is into you. I think the other thing that I would only add to this is two things. One, that vertical swing plane, to get that, I think that a lot of amateurs, and I've fallen victim to this over the last 2 years, which is why my chipping had gone down and is now back where it was. You got to stand super close to the golf ball and get your hands higher. Because I think it's very easy to get into a situation where our hands go low. We stand a long way from the ball, especially being around all these tour players who play the lie angles of their wedges so flat. And it's like, I think you can end up then, because it visually looks like the toe is the only thing touching the turf. Yeah. That is what you want for a steep VSP, vertical swing plane. What we're talking about here on any launch monitor is spin loft. And the spin loft, the friction is crucial when you get a brand new wedge from whomever, certainly the TaylorMade stuff. In between the grooves, it has these laser micro grooves. Those things rip. That's why people change their wedges, because once they wear out and they're the first ones to go, then you lose the super amounts of friction. But the other thing is you can actually go too far. If the blade, and Bubsy said it was like, would have been set at like 70, 75 degrees open, then dynamically he's gone in and given whatever. If the blade gets too open, you can create no friction, which is why if you lay the blade miles open for a flop shot, sometimes you can just go underneath it because there's no friction. And that's why in a bunker, you can get away with opening it more because there's sand to add to the friction, which is why you spin your trap shots more than you do your fairway wood shots, your fairway shots.
I mean, look, you know, when I coach, I generally coach recreational golfers. And as a little task, challenge, whatever you want to call it, go and film yourself hitting a 25-yard pitch with a wedge. Get the camera down the line. And if you stop that video, stick it on slow motion, if you stop that video when the club head is at the same height as your hands in the backswing, as you're looking at it from down the line, I'd almost guarantee that for the majority of people listening, that club will be left of the hands. And what I was saying there and what Trotty was alluding to, if you look at Rory, that club head was to the right of his hands, which is him creating a more vertical swing plane. And it's what you see in chipping. People get overactive with the hands, club whips inside, club head goes behind you and stays low to the ground. And it's just game over from there. Like you can hit certain shots, but you're not hitting that one that Rory hit.
Good breakdown.
But what I will say is all the greatest shots, apart from the Christy O'Connor one, all the greatest shots you think about, not just Ryder Cup, they all follow an awful shot.
Yeah.
Like Tiger's chip on a 16. Great. What the hell's he doing over there?
Yeah.
What's he doing over there?
Yeah. Well, talking about what we might see as great, let's talk about great, actually, rather than great shots. Who do you guys thinking obviously a slight variation from our dope stroke of the week here, who do you reckon is going to be the guy on the US side and the European side that is going to be the standout player of this week's Ryder Cup? I'm going to hold you to this next week as well.
Are we doing one from each side or stand out?
No, I think we'll go one from each side. Who's going to be the best player on the European side? Who's going to be the best player on the US side? And let's see how far off we all were next week.
All right, I'll go then, and I'm going to give you two names, and then I'm going to read you something off here, which won't take long. So I'm going to go US. I think this is set up for Bryson. I just think he is going to love this week. He's going to be probably feeding off the crowd more than any other US player. I think being on live, he might feel a little bit out of the headlines. So I think he'll just love being in the spotlight this week. So I think he's going to do really well. And I said this on a previous podcast. I just look at Rose. I think Rose has such a good year. He's so experienced. He'll be great in terms of his own points, I think, but he'll also be pretty instrumental in some of the other people on the team getting points as well, like Hogard or a Bob McIntyre. But I just wanted to quickly do this. I just asked, because I think we did this before, but I think this is important because it takes a bit of workload away from me. I asked ChatGPT, I put, give me a sentence on why each could win the Ryder Cup. So it's put, why the US could win. Bethpage Black gives Team USA a home course advantage, familiarity with the rough, wind, greens and local conditions, plus roaring support from the crowd, could tip tight matches. The US side has newer players with momentum and they'll be particularly motivated to reclaim the cup after losing it in Rome. And then for the Europe, it says Europe is coming in with continual and almost the same winning side from 2023, which builds team cohesion and Ryder Cup know-how. Luke Donald has emphasised intensive preparation. Also, many European squads are battle-tested in high-pressure situations, which can make the difference in intention-filled matches. So which do you think of those is more accurate?
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I think
I think the US one. Yeah,
reading those, I think US. So that's ChatGPT chiming in on this podcast.
American owned, isn't it? ChatGPT.
I know it is.
Yeah. Right, go on, Trotty. Give us your rendition.
I think it's very easy to say Bryson. I think if you're looking at the US team, no, it's the obvious one. I think if the US team are going to win this thing, I think the one that you got to keep. I don't know if I'm going to give you an answer that you want here, but what I'm going to say for my answer is Scotty Scheffler. He's going to be the standout. Everyone's going to want to beat him. But the names that I think can clinch the cup here, Bryson for sure. And then I think the momentum sits with Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, JJ Spawn, and Xander Schauffele. I think, but if you look at the odds and the gambling and stand there and go, well, who's going to be the difference maker? It's got to be Scotty and Bryson. But those other names, I think, will be significant if the cup goes to the US. Then on the European side, I think the names that will be the ones, again, I think Rosie for sure. I think Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood, John Rahm, if he can get in the game, Victor. So you look at the whole team. But if you want to look at players that will swing this, that will be the ones that you don't really think, I think Bob's got to keep the emotion out of it a little bit. Shane's got to truly show up. I'm losing a bit of faith, and I'm a bit worried about Sepp Straka's form, but I think he's unflappable. And I think the dark horse, if I had to pick one, so if I was picking one on the US side, just because the odds, Scotty Scheffler, and if I'm picking one on the European side, I'm picking Ludwig Aberg. Ludwig Aberg could win every single game he plays in, and no one would even really notice.
I think they all did pretty well at Wentworth. I think I apologise, I can't remember which one's playing this. Is it Nikolai playing in this one or Rasmus? Rasmus. He was poor in Wentworth. I think he missed the cut. So he's the one where maybe you'd be a bit concerned about. But Gondazza, who are your picks?
Yeah, I think Scotty Scheffler is definitely playing a different level of golf right now. How that cascades into these type of matches, I'm not too sure, although I'd still think he would be a momentum driver throughout the week for sure. But I actually think the guy that might rack up the most points on the US side, I think, is Justin Thomas. I think he seems to be pretty solid, playing pretty solid at the moment. And I just feel like he's got enough experience and enough bite in his game where he would really hustle that forward. So for me, I think Justin Thomas has got a bit more about him than just the game. It's all the peripheral stuff you need to become a winner in this kind of format particularly. So Justin Thomas for me would be the standout if we're looking outside of the likes of Scotty Scheffler. When it gets to the European side, I think a lot of people are going to hang their hat on Rory McIlroy, and quite rightly so. He's got a pretty incredible win record, actually. So his win percentage is 50%, which is pretty good based on the volume of matches he's played. But I actually think again, on the European side, guys with a bit of bite. I think, given the circumstances of being in New York, I think you're going to have to look at the guys who've got a bit more of a chip on their shoulder, like a Shane Lowry or a Tyrrell Hatton. I think even a Victor Hovland has something to prove, although I wouldn't say that he's necessarily got that same sort of conviction about him. But I have to agree with Trotty on the European side. I think Ludwig Åberg is the guy that could win every point, and I can see that happening. And it would almost certainly go under the radar come Sunday afternoon. So yeah, for me, JT and Ludwig Åberg would be my bets on this particular tournament.
When I think of JT, I don't know. I know he's had a good year and he's had some good results, but I feel like with JT, I still see him. Well, I see him in the same way I see Spieth. Like Spieth kind of lost his game for a long time, and he's kind of on the way back up. But whenever I watch Spieth, I just feel like he's close to losing it again. And I see just in the same way. I just feel like I've seen him post things on social media, been working on his golf swing and making changes, and I see him kind of around the leaderboard, and he hasn't won. I don't know. I would have him down actually as someone I think might struggle and just under the pressure just lose his game a little bit. But that's just anecdotally. I've not really got any data behind that. But I just don't watch him with a lot of confidence at the moment. Well, like when he was winning his majors, it was a different story. But right now, I don't know. I just think he's still on his way back to the top. I don't think he's quite there yet.
I think some people rise to the occasion, and my perception of someone like a Justin Thomas, he's that guy. For the Americans, I mean, I could be way off the mark here, but I just feel like if anyone's going to really G the crowd along and really push his team forward, it's going to be Justin Thomas. Because even Scotty Scheffler, as good as his game is, I wouldn't say he's the kind of personality that rallies the troops. That's not who he is. But JT is. He's like the Captain America kind of think Patrick Reed type personality. Not quite the same, but has that sort of driving force to push things along a little bit.
Are you saying that some people rise to the occasion and some people shoot 74 in first round of qualifying?
Yeah.
100%. Talking about rising to the occasion, and we'll give you one last question and then we'll love you and leave you. Who's the highest, without ChatGPT bloody T, Bobsy? I saw you turn to get ready on that keyboard. Who's the highest point scorer in Ryder Cup history?
Well, I don't Sergio, isn't it, for
Westwood? No, Sergio or Westwood, I think.
Sergio for Europeans.
Was Faldo still there?
Faldo's second, Sergio first, and then on the US side, you won't get the US one.
Give us an era. Modern
70s. Want to say 70s.
God, someone like Johnny Miller or something, or
based in San Diego. That won't help you boys, but it makes it a lot easier.
I don't know.
I got nothing.
No.
Okay. Go on in, tell us.
Hang on, I'm just checking if I got the era correct.
You're ChatGPT in it now, are you?
I'm ChatGPT. No, it's the 50s through to the 70s. It was right, 50s through to 70s.
Oh, God.
So someone like an Arnold Palmer?
He's second.
God,
I think he's got more points than Jack Nicklaus. Is it somebody like Billy Casper?
Hey,
well done, Dazzler.
Is he on a heater this week or what?
Boom.
Oh,
Get that on a sticker. Get that on a sticker, McD. Phenomenal.
all the moves.
That bombshell's got to conclude it. There you go.
And for
there we go.
For a bonus point, can you tell us who he beat in each match?
No.
I mean, he got first and second there, McD. Fair play.
Yeah, I can know my history. See, keep up, lads. Keep up.
Great effort.
Right. Well, that I think concludes another episode, boys. So thank you very much for everybody that listened to the show. Tune in again next week where we break down what actually happened during the Ryder Cup, and we'll figure out how close we were in terms of who we thought were going to be the needle movers for the week. Until next time, everyone. Thanks again. See you next week.